Hello. Hello, Atomic Elbow. Thank you for checking in before lurking. I always appreciate that. Um, and so far, it's just two people so far from what I can see. So we're just gonna kind of chill for a little bit while people kind of meander in, hopefully. Uh, Smeagol is paint guarding again. Yeah, I'm talking about you. I love you. Oh, could you move that, please? You know, the box so that I can see the chat, please. I see it's Armac. There we go. Hello, Armac.
You should tell Armac what I changed his name to, just so we could keep track.
Hello, Hunger Games 1989 and JJS87. So we can edit usernames on OBS, and to make things easier so that I'm not mixing up Armac and Atomic Elbow, Armac's username is now fucking Armac. So it starts with an F, and there's no, what's it called?
Underscore.
Underscore. Yes. Hello, Rhetoriku. That is Paige Lars. Is this a secondary account, or did things change? And also,
no, that's the same account.
Same account. Oh, so you just changed the username?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Cool. It took forever for me to get that message to go through. Oh no, is Twitch being weird? Well, Hunger Games is great. The books are pretty fabulous. They are a lot more political than the movies. The movies, ironically, did exactly what the Capitol does in the books and focused on the love triangle and, like, all of the shallow stuff instead of the serious political stuff. And, like, didn't let people with disabilities keep their disabilities. What is happening with my hair? And, like, yeah, whereas the books are, like, intense and, like, very political. But yeah, so everyone, oh my gosh, look at this. I got JR's dreads when I was making them on Tuesday. I was not sure how they would turn out, and I am so happy. Look at that. Look at that. Like, it looks like dreads. I'm so happy about it. So what I'm gonna be doing today is mostly just sculpting. Second movie irritated you. I mean, middle movies tend to be frustrating in general. Hello, Alien Sock Puppy. Welcome, and thank you for the resubscription. I think it's my computer because I just downloaded Twitch on here. Oh, that sucks. I hope it figures itself out quickly. Hi. What's up? I love you. You're cute. Yeah. Okay. So, today, we're going to be working on sculpting JR, and maybe Franny a little bit if, oh, hi. If I wind up finishing JR or get to a point where I need to pause and let things dry. But today I went in and drumrolled a bunch of stuff on the JR Funko. So I'm gonna be refining that. Just because of how much they seem to skip from the end of the book and the beginning of the third. Hey James, welcome. Thank you. Yeah, I thought the acting at the end of the second movie was really good. Other than that, I can't really remember anything particularly distinctive about it, besides Natalie Dormer showing up. But yeah. So, we have the normal Smeagol cam is back here, so that you can see what I'm doing here, since I'm not really going to be using the table that much today, if at all. So we're going to see how well that holds. It's going to be an adventure. But yeah, and we're going to talk about Lizze Borden. I have done, like, so I read really fast, and then I also listen to most things at double speed, and watch most things at double speed. Not movies, but like documentaries and stuff. So I get a lot covered in a short amount of time. I've been watching Criminal Minds for the first time, and if you know how Dr. Reed reads, where he's just like super fast, I'm slightly slower than that. Like, it's silly. Are you trying to study it? And yeah, so I have done a lot of research since last we saw each other. I know it sounds silly that I did a lot of research in 2 days, but like I said, I go fast. So I found out about a bunch of information that's come out in the last couple of years. I got tacos and smoked more so I could be maximum high for Lizze Borden. Perfect. The brownie started wearing off, ruffle iron. Oh man, I'm excited for you. That sounds like a perfect evening, honestly. Excuse me, ma'am. What? Oh, is that still your camera?
Hold on, it's not showing yet.
That's my camera now. No, it's my camera now.
Let me make sure something.
Smeagol is confused. Hey! 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 You think that's yours? Yeah? It is normally yours. That is fair. Yeah. Hey! Okay, so apparently I can't touch the camera very much. I wanted to give you the, yeah. Hey! Hey! Calm down, please. Good girl. Good girl. Thank you. Okay. Alright.
Hey, it's modify the focus on it.
Oh, could you, widen chat so that I can see more at once, please? Here we go. Brownie was just starting to wear off, but, like, is this not a beautiful night to be friends? It is a beautiful night to be friends. Second movie is my favorite. I will rewatch that one the most, or start with watching all, but you're covering up exactly where I am in chat. Could you move that over slightly, please?
Sorry.
Thank you. Watch the first one and then forget how good the second movie is and rewatch it until I get sick of it. I haven't watched them in a long time. I should really rewatch them. I have painkillers left over from my trip to the dentist. Hell yeah. Let's all get wasted. Party. I think you have lost possession of the camera. Yeah. It's questionable at best. I don't know what the heck is going on, but I'm trying to figure it out. It's Smeagol. That's what's going on. That's fine. Maybe I can make a decoy camera. So there is a third camera, obviously. That's what's pointing at her. Make me white. We're talking about Hunger Games. But tonight we're going to be talking about Lizze Borden. And I've been doing a lot of reading and listening and everything and watching and stuff to get ready. And it turns out that Lizze Borden was like super rich, and she was able to hire like the late 19th century dream team. And one of the lawyers, his children found in their house when they were getting ready to sell it, like, there's, that is why I'm staying up a little late, but I'll have to watch the pod. Oh, well, I'm glad that you're here for as long as you were able to be here. And I also found out that you were named after a Star Trek character since the last time we saw each other. So I know things. So they found an old hip bath, which is basically like if you think of like an old-timey person taking a bath in like a little sit tub, that's a hip bath. Like if you're sitting in the tub, it'll only come up to your hips. They are actually going bad. They were made by a friend who made them too dense and too strong. I may have to chunk them and soak them and make them into a cake batter again to correct the texture and make them still safe to eat. Well, that sounds delicious as hell, rough iron.
Oh, by the way,
if you want to send a care package,
by the way,
feel free.
Kira Nerys, the personal name is Nerys. The family name is Kira.
Like Little House on the Prairie. I know what Little House on the Prairie is. I read the books when I was a kid, but I never watched the show. But that is because I grew up without TV, not because I didn't want to or whatever. But yeah, so in this hip bath, they found all of his like journals and scrapbooks from the trials and all of his like handwritten notes. Him and one of the other lawyers, they like shared a notebook between the two of them and like both kept notes. And lots of interviews with witnesses that hadn't made it to trial. And basically, before this, what we've been going off of is the trial transcript and like the tablets that have survived. Kind of like Jack the Ripper. You know, Jack the Ripper obviously didn't have a trial, but we'd go mostly off of the tabloids. Yes, about the name, but you couldn't capitalize. And see, I used to work with a little boy named Kieran, and so I thought that it was Kieran Reese. And Brian told me afterwards that it was Kira Reese. Nerys?
Oh, you can change the capitalization on your account now. Twitch lets you change capitalization all you want.
Oh, there you go. I used to fantasize about staging real American dolls in hyper-accurate, time-appropriate historical dramas. That sounds fun. I say, why keep that in the past tense? Let that happen now. Yeah, hopefully it works. I'm sure it will. I just noticed, Ruffle Iron, what your pronouns are. I'm pretty sure they haven't been any this whole time.
They have.
Have they really?
Yeah.
That's so funny. I love that. I didn't know that any was an option.
Mm-hmm.
Can you do the pronouns link?
Yep.
Just so people know what I'm talking about. They discovered this tub in like 1940, and they didn't do anything with it. And so the grandson of the lawyer, I'm cool with anything. I'm literally too autistic to care what gender people think I am. That's Brian. Same thing. Same exact thing.
Basically. Little bit different, but it's like it's just that I don't think it's the autism that's the reason. Yeah,
that's fair.
But yeah, it's pretty much exactly the same.
Solid reason. So the grandson wound up taking over everything, and the thing is that the family just like, that's not for you. You need to make up your mind, lady. So the grandson took over the journals and decided to try and transcribe them himself. But his grandfather had really terrible handwriting, and he didn't want to give the journals to anyone else because he didn't want his grandfather to be misquoted by anyone, so he had to do it, even though he was not by any means a professional, like, able to, like, read historical writing or anything like that, but he decided to just kind of sit on the journals for decades. And finally, no, I'm not going to say finally. That would be really bad. So, eventually, all good things must come to an end, and the grandson passed away. And he bequeathed the collection to the town's historical society. And so they've been working on transcribing them and compiling them together, and have released 2 books, and the last one just came out at the end of last year, I think, or the beginning of this year. I really want it, but it's like $30. And the other one is like over 100. So, but I went and dug for as much information as I could possibly find without actually having the book. So, I mean, I do use autism as a catch-all excuse for the large categories of things I just don't find interesting, which include but aren't limited to forming a coherent sense of identity. Live your life, man. Yeah, I need to add to the wishes. No, that's not for you. Nice try, though. That was good stealth.
No, should I?
Hey! This is gonna be fun all night.
Oh, you have it wrapped around the
She tried to just steal the lid from right in front of me.
Smiggle style.
Yeah, I should totally do that. I'm just gonna... should I call you Kira or Nerys?
Nerys, typically.
Nerys. Kira is more...
It's like calling, hold on.
Yeah.
I literally, it's like calling, Brett Ehrlich. It's the same thing as calling Kira.
Someone should tell Brett that Brian's first thought of just any person with 2 names was Brett.
No, here's the problem. I thought of 17 people. I couldn't remember the first and last name for any of them. Either I love the sound of both together and the whole putting fam first. Well, Kira's first, like, in your name, so I'm probably gonna go with Kira. Yes, Smeagol, I love you. So, they have finally released this. So basically, I, like, scoured for as much as I could find that, like, summed up the books. Yeah, so we're gonna talk about that tonight. That's the plan. And it should be really fucking interesting, hopefully, if I do it right. Hi. I love you. So, let's see. Where should I begin with this? Let's begin with... Okay. Am I a fan of the story? The Star Trek story? I'm not actually familiar with the Star Trek story, sorry. Library for the new book, that is expensive. So they basically just sell it out of the Historical Society, although I did find it on Amazon, because everything's on Amazon. So I looked, like, on eBay and everything. The one that's, like, over $100, I can't find for less, and I don't understand why. But, yeah. So, welcome back, Atomic Elbow. She moved. I was going to do a zoom in on her, and she immediately moved.
She sensed it. Those aren't yours. Those are mine. I need those. Smeagol! Those are mine. You can't have them. I need them. Oh my god, that was ridiculous, y'all.
Hold on.
Are you just knocking everything around?
Yep.
That's a dramatic zoom. Trenchy can't find a PDF of a $100 book. Well, I haven't really fully sicked him on it yet.
He's been busy, and so I've just been kind of exploring on my own. But we'll see. We'll see. Hello, Ricky. Smeagol is particularly crazy tonight, so. But yeah, so we're gonna talk about all of the things that I learned that history has wrong. So, who knows the schoolyard poem about Lizzie Borden? Look at the camera angle. That's so funny. Smeagol just wreaked havoc on the entire thing. Hello, MK Ultra. Does anyone know the schoolyard poem about Lizzie Borden? Perchance. Hello, Shizer. Welcome. Thank you for the follow. It is a classic. Lizzie Borden asked that slap she gave her father for There's so, basically the two variations on theories for her dad are either that he was a total abusive asshole, that he was an abusive asshole who also was making her sleep with him, or yeah. Anyway, she took an axe to her mother and gave her 40 whacks, and when her father close. So hello, Drew and Georgia, welcome. When she saw what she had done, she gave her father 41. Yeah, so that's the poem. So Lizzie Borden took an axe, gave her mother 40 whacks. When she saw what she had done, she gave her father 41. And none of that is correct at all. The pronoun she is correct, and the name Lizzie Borden is correct.
And ostensibly the axe,
nope.
An axe was possibly involved. No?
Hatchet.
Oh, a hatch is just a small axe.
Still.
That's fair. I mean,
the mom had. So first off, it wasn't her mom; it was her stepmom. Yours was beautiful, Raffle Iron. Thank you for gracing us with your poetry. I truly feel blessed myself. Hatchet doesn't rhyme. There was a Lizzie Borden historian whose lecture I watched, and she wrote it to be accurate, and I wish I could remember exactly what it is. I'll find it and I'll post it on the Discord later, because it was very funny. Superfly, absolutely. First off, I strongly believe that Lizzie Borden did not do it. That's when we departed on Tuesday. I told you I wasn't sure. Obviously I'm not sure because I'm not an expert. I've only been researching this week. But I did a lot of research. And that's the conclusion that I came to. I do not believe that she did it. But the best summary for the who did it that I found was from a podcast called Last Podcast on the Left, which I have alternating feelings about, but their research is always really, really good. And the way that they basically started out was saying, here's the thing. The way that this crime breaks down is that it is impossible that Lizzie Borden did it. But the way that it breaks down is it is also impossible that anyone but Lizzie Borden did it. I have a theory on who I think did it that I will definitely share. Wasn't there a milkman? Well, there was a theory about poison milk. So, stepmom was true. They were not forced to call her mother. She married their dad when Lizzie was younger than 5. I think she was 3. No, her mom died when she was 3, and then her father remarried when she was 5. And so she just called her mother for a long time, and then they had a falling out. No one knows exactly what about. And after that, she only called her Mrs. Borden, which is just a sick burn. It was a ghost, yeah. Yeah, contradictory truths. Yep. They were pretty wealthy, but no butler. Yeah, so they were, in fact, extremely wealthy. Their father was, like, the ultimate self-made man. Like, he came from, I don't know if they were poor, but his family was definitely not rich. And he started a business, and started investing and stuff, and, eventually became one of the richest men in the town. So most of the stuff that we know about Lizzie Borden, no, I did this, because that's a quote mark. What did you say? I hate you so much. You're fired. Schrodinger's axe. You should totally go to the musical if it's ever done in your area. I totally would. Can you pull up that picture of JR, please? What was I saying?
Words.
Oh, so yeah, so he was very wealthy, but he was also very frugal.
Particular one.
There was one of him and Sprocket together that was working on his Instagram.
I love the random, Oh, is that why he named his dog Sprocket?
I always think of the SNL sketch. There you go.
Don't see the one you're referring to. That is why he named his dog Sprocket.
You think about the dresses they wore back then and how messy the crime scene was. She had no blood on her. Yeah, or had enough time to clean up before Bridget came in from her screams. Yeah, so there's no way she could have done it. Like, it's not possible. So I don't know who did it. I don't think it's possible to know who did it, but it wasn't her. Yeah, so we're gonna get into that. But, so there was her father, who is Schrodinger's douchebag, where he is simultaneously this, like, frugal miser who doesn't want to spend any money whatsoever, but also at the same time, sold property to his daughters for $1, and then when they changed their mind, bought it back from them for $5,000. Like, that's how are both of those things true? We're gonna see how well I do this together. Because yeah, that's a thing that happened. He was they found out that he had bought a property for his wife's family because they were in trouble financially, and so he, like, bought their house so they wouldn't be evicted, something like that. And they found out, and they were like, hey, why would you do that? And not help us? And so he was like, fine, here's this house, give me $1 and it's yours. You know, so that, like, legally you bought it from me. And then they were like, okay, well, we're still gonna stay at home, so we're gonna be landlords. And then they were like, oh, no, we actually don't like being landlords. And so he bought it back for $6,000. Like, how both? So, like, our U.S. government not wanting to spend money on the U.S. citizens, but will spend billions in military defense. Yeah, exactly. Did we die? No. What died?
Oh, Rhetoriku's, computer.
Oh, no. Oh. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry for your loss, Rhetoriku. So yeah.
So lots of contradictions, and like basically like if you just spend 2 seconds like critically thinking about all of the things that we do know, like very little of it actually lines up. And that's because most of what we know comes from the tabloids or comes from gossip. Like some of the stories, like literally the original source is someone who did like a full-on Ferris Bueller's Day Off thing of like, well, so and so heard from so and so who heard it from her cousin who heard it from so and so down the street, like that, you know. Doing work that is boring does indeed suck. That's true. So yeah, so like that's where a lot of the sources come from. But if we're looking at the stuff that we do know, here's what we do know. The Bordens had a house in like downtown, like a non-fashionable district. Oh, thank you for gifting a sub to Atomic Elbow, Drew in Georgia. So they had a house in like basically like the financial district, which for me personally is like a dream. I very much want to live in the Manhattan financial district because that's where all the oldest shit is. But for society is a no-no. And so they wanted to live up where the fashionable people lived in a little neighborhood called The Hill. But he saw that as a waste of money, and he liked living downtown because it was right next to his business. And, you know, he could just walk to work and then walk home and, you know, convenience. I get it. I once lived within a 5-minute drive of my work, and let me tell you, a commute where you don't even have time to play a full song is glorious. And I drove only because I had to be at work at 6 a.m. and I wasn't about walking in the dark like that in a place lovingly nicknamed often Anna Crime. But yeah, so Eternal Birthday, Atomic Elbow. So yeah, so he liked living where they lived, so that's where they stayed. And what's ridiculous is so many of the sources I was looking at described their house as like this super tiny house, like, and way below their means, and like, you know, like they were basically living like paupers and all this. And please just Google Lizzie Borden house and look at the Google image, like, and see how tiny this house was. Like, it is described as like a tiny square, like barely big enough for the family. This is a family of 4 people. It's a huge house. It's 2 adult daughters, their maid, and 2 parents, and a guest room. Like, yeah, it's giant and it's beautiful. It's tiny for the times, especially if you're wealthy, but like, for people to still be describing it as like a tiny box of a house is just inaccurate, in my opinion. And plus I think it's super cute. But I like that era of architecture. But yeah, so they definitely could afford bigger. Oh, another one of the contradictions is that people will talk about how the dad was a total miser and refused to spend money, and so like even though it was super normal at the time for wealthy people to have electricity and running water, he refused to pay for it. But then they'll also talk about how they had running water in a couple different like water pumps in like the kitchen and stuff. And there was a toilet that flushed in the basement downstairs. Like, yeah, it was in the basement, but that's still in the house, you know? So, like, if you didn't want to go to the basement, you had to use a chamber pot, you know? Like, okay. That doesn't mean that they're on the edge of, you know, destitution. But yeah, so just contradictions like that, like, don't really add up to the story that we are being sold of this, like, hateful, angry dad. And in the notebooks that have been discovered from Lizze's lawyer, it turns out that they were actually pretty close. He called Emma and Lizze his girls. He talked about wanting to make sure that they were taken care of when he was gone and setting them up in a nice, comfortable house. And, like, he talked about wanting to take care of them. And then, like, you know, he's this miser who refuses to spend money, but also sends Lizze on a 1.5-year long trip around Europe. Like, which one is it? And apparently while she was gone, she wrote letters at least once a week, and brought back, like, a shit ton of art, which, girl after my own heart, what can I say? Let's see, the maid did not sleep in the barn, she slept in the house. She had a room on the 3rd floor. I'm sure they could have afforded more grandeur, but they weren't slumming it. Yeah, they weren't slumming it. The houses around them. Well, it wasn't the houses around them, because they weren't in a rich neighborhood. So the houses around them, like, it was the smallest house on the block, but it wasn't like they were surrounded by mansions, you know? Lizze, his heart. I don't know about that. So I don't want to confirm or deny that. But, like, they seem to be very close. Not like incest close, like some movies and TV shows like to show. But, you know, a good father-daughter relationship. And, So, yeah. So one of the things that I've learned this week is that a lot of the things that we know about the case are just not true. For example, the crime scene photos. We have a thought about what a crime scene photo is. You know, like, it is, here's what the crime scene looked like exactly as it was when people found it. And it's, you know, like, forensic evidence. But keep in mind, this is 1892. Jack the Ripper was in 1888. And Jack the Ripper had the first crime scene photograph. Like, so it's a new thing. It's a new art. And so something that is not widely known are things like how, when they found the stepmom's body, they took the body, sat her up, investigated her wounds, had a couple doctors digging around in them with their fingers, you know, like she's, what, Andrew Garfield? Is that the president who died that way?
Like all of them that got shot did. I mean, like, even, my understanding is, Lincoln, like...
Oh, yeah, that happened with him, too,
head,
but, like, one president, like, specifically died because the doctors were just rummaging around after he got shot. I'm pretty sure. No, McKinley. I don't know. Garfield. Okay, thank you, Armac. Yeah, the dining room table wound up being the autopsy table, which is just gross. But here's the thing. So they sat up the mom, and the picture that you see is basically, they're like, this is approximately where she was and kind of the position that she was in-ish. But, like, they wanted to make sure that it was a respectable photo, and so they didn't, you know, perfectly arrange it. Like, they rearranged her skirts, to, like, you know, preserve her modesty. She had been, like, half under the bed, so they pulled her out from under the bed, then moved the bed, just, you know, just moving shit around like crazy.
People say that Washington died from blood loss too. Blood loss and also just, like sanitary habits and incompetence, and he had like a flu or a cold. And he died because his doctors were so awful. And that's why most people don't really know how Washington died, even if they don't realize that they don't know.
Actually, I do know that I remember that it was, they did bloodletting on him and such. And
a lot of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, basically he went to check on his crops, stayed out in the rain a little too long, caught a cold, and his doctors murdered him. Yeah, so we are definitely going to get to that page. People say, yeah. So one of the things that is used against Lizzie is how her testimony kept changing. So I'm going to tell you who I think is the most sus out of everyone, and it might surprise you because he is not mentioned much at all, but I think Dr. Bowen is the most sus. He lived across the street from the Bordens, and he was like the first person to like rush over to check on them. He is the one who, because Lizzie was hysterical because, you know, she had just discovered her father murdered horrifically, here's what he did. He dosed her with morphine and then dosed her again with caffeine because he's like, well, she's going to be questioned, so I should probably, you know, inject her with caffeine as well. And so she couldn't get any of the details right. She kept on mixing up her facts, and he kept her on morphine for a while after. Like, it wasn't like after the one day she was fine again. He kept on dosing her. Like, there's no way that she could have kept her facts straight after all the morphine that he gave her. One of the other pieces of evidence that is often used against Lizzie is when her dad came home, she told him that her stepmom had gotten a note from a sick friend and had gone to visit them, right? But they never found a note. And no friend ever came forward to say that they'd done it. And I have no explanation for why no one ever came forward. But one of the things that Dr. Bowen did before people like really arrived and started focusing on things was the police found like pieces of a ripped up note, and they had started to kind of like piece them together to try and figure out what the note said. Dr. Bowen grabbed the pieces, threw them in the fire, and was like, it doesn't matter. Like, just one thing after another that this dude did that is super sus, and so I don't trust him, and so he's the number one on my sus list. Although, the uncle is also pretty sus. Lizzie's and Emma's uncle, just showed up the day before unannounced and, like, crashed, and he had gone into town that morning, and so he had an alibi, but the thing was that his alibi was, like, too strong. Like, he, as evidence that he had actually been where he said that he was, he, like, gave the number of the trolley that he was on, and then the number of the hat that the trolley, like, conductor was wearing, and, like, all these details that, like, you shouldn't know all these details. Like, that's something that, of someone who's, like, I'm gonna make sure that it's ironclad,
Or autistic.
or autistic, but I don't know. Like, it was suspicious for the people who knew him.
Yeah.
So one of the other pieces of evidence that's used against her, hold on, let me... Was the father very religious? I heard he was miserly because he was part of the fire and brimstone crowd of the First Great Awakening. So
God, I haven't thought of the
were...
Great Awakenings in a long time.
They were just Protestant. Nothing crazy. Like, yeah, they were religious, but, like, so was everyone, you know?
I mean...
I will say that they were super fucking racist, just like everyone was at that time.
Yeah. Were they particularly racist for the time?
Lizzie was not great about it. We'll get to that.
Yeah. She would get banned from Twitter, is what you're saying.
No, she would know better than to put anything on Twitter. Morphine. I don't think morphine is delicious. Some medications, when you get them intravenously, are delicious. I don't think that morphine is one of them, though. The one that's really gross is any sort of steroid. If you get it injected, it tastes disgusting.
It's not that bad.
Really? What's the one I'm trying to think of? Prednisone. That's the one that I'm thinking of. Prednisone is absolutely disgusting tasting.
I mean, I know testosterone doesn't taste awful.
I have never tasted testosterone.
Yeah, that's fair.
So, but I have had to take prednisone multiple times for medical shit.
Obviously, testosterone is a steroid.
Yes. Yeah.
A steroid, specifically, a steroidal hormone.
Yeah. So one of the other things used against Lizzie, she said that when she was, trying to retrace her steps while high on morphine and caffeine, she said that, her dad had come home and she'd helped him take off his boots and, lie down on the couch like he normally did for his nap. And people use that against her because in the crime scene photo, he's wearing his boots. But the thing is that because they were making the crime scene look respectable for all of the people in it, they absolutely would have put his shoes back on. Because it would have been too scandalous for him to be barefoot in a photograph. They wouldn't have taken that picture. Allegedly. Yes, thank you, MK Ultra. Let's not get banned for talking about how delicious morphine and caffeine are. I always hate the feeling of the CT scanned eyes. Ooh, yeah, it's not great. And I've started tasting IV fluid when I started. Yeah, I know that taste. That's a weird taste. Because it's not a bad taste or a good taste. It's just a taste.
Yeah. It's like the taste of a rock. Your body's like, that doesn't have a taste. I mean, it has a taste, but it doesn't have a taste.
Morphine Valium drip when you went to the ER with chest pains turned into a happy puddle. I believe it.
Alien sock puddle.
Nice. But yeah. So, alright, one of the other things that's a fact about the case is that day was just the hottest day ever. And it was so hot and miserable, and everyone hated their lives that day, etc., etc. It was so gross. Here's who introduced the fact, quote unquote, that it was a super hot day. The prosecution. And they did that specifically because they wanted to put Lizzie's alibi into question. Because at the time of her father's murder, she said that she was in the barn. And like I said, she was definitely being super sus.
Have a
but
good night,
also
Grace.
morphine. Thank you so much for joining. Enjoy your sleep. So she wasn't really doing herself a lot of favors, unfortunately, but I don't think it was her fault. I think it was drugs. So she said that at the time of the murders, she had been in the barn. One of the things that she said she was doing was looking for a piece of iron or lead to use for her fishing line on her fishing trip that weekend. Which is, weird, but okay. And then she sat up in the barn's loft eating pears and just kind of chilling for half an hour or so. And the defense was she can't possibly have been in the loft. It was way too hot that day. And at the time, nobody could remember, that particular day and how it felt. And if you look at the newspaper accountings, it was a high of 83. Yes, there was humidity, to factor in,
but still, like, that's not so awful that you can't withstand the barn, you know? And then that also, I think, puts in a whole other interesting aspect of the, okay, if it wasn't Lizzie who did do it thing. Lofts have doors. Yeah, totally. In the barn with the candlestick or hatchet. So they did find, like, a bucket of hatchets in the barn later, but that's not a weird thing for the time. Like, that's just...
It's a barn. It's got hatchets.
Yeah. And, like, one of them, they said, like, it looked like it had dirt rubbed into it instead of naturally falling upon it. And all, like, they were just reaching. They were trying to find anything, honestly. And the whole reason why they turned to Lizzie was because she wasn't acting properly. Like, she should have been crying more. When the thing is that by the time they got there, she was doped up on morphine because of sus Dr. Bowen. And so she'd been totally hysterical before, but by the time they got there, she was super calm. And on top of that, like, she's described by people before the murders as being, like, a very shy and quiet person who doesn't really show her feelings very much. Like, she's very reserved. A lot of people described her as just plain boring. So, like, it's in character for her to not be, like, freaking out in the first place. And then on top of that, drugs. Let's see. It's too hot to be eating pears. Dun dun dun. Absolutely. Leave it to the men to say a woman couldn't handle heat, right? They chopped wood regularly. Well, Lizzie and Emma wouldn't have. And so that is actually something that does work in Lizzie's favor, is the fact that she probably physically couldn't have done the murders, just because she was a lady of means. So, like, the lives of ladies of means were dull as fuck. Like, I would have been miserable living that life. Like, they sat around in barns eating pears and looking for fishing lure metal. Like, that was their actual life. Lizzie spent that morning ironing handkerchiefs. Like, ugh. What would Bowen's motive have been? That I don't know. I am curious about that, but motives for ultra-violent crimes like this usually fall under passion or sick, twisted premeditation. Yeah, these were definitely murders of rage also, just from the violence of them. Like, whoever did it had to be really furious, especially at the stepmom. So, why would he have been furious? We don't know. We'll never know. Like I said, this is just my theory after looking at stuff. I don't even know if anyone else thinks that's the case at all. That's just me looking at people and being like, you. So, here's the thing, also. One of the things that people know is that, like, the doors of the house were locked from the inside, so no stranger could have possibly gotten in. Like, maybe the doctor was having an affair with the wife. I had that thought. I try not to, like, slander the dead, you know?
Although, to be fair,
like
if
that.
she
But
was having
is
an
it
affair with
possibility?
someone, maybe it's because her husband was a piece of shit and divorce wasn't available to her.
Yeah.
Like, there are, like, I don't want to say reasons for cheating, like, especially not today, but, like,
Justification, like, for that person.
it's understandable.
Yeah.
Like, you know, if, like, because divorce just isn't a thing then.
Yeah.
And if you are absolutely fucking miserable, and this is your only way to get any kind of joy in life because this asshole is beating the hell out of you, yeah, I'm not gonna, like,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna be upset about that.
Yeah. The uncle hated both Abby and Andrew. He was the one. He is a lot of people's favorite option. And he's definitely at least top 3 for me. But, like, the thing is that his alibi is solid.
So if it was him, my thought is that he would have paid a stranger to do it. Or something. And one of the things, though, is that there was it's guessed to be about an hour and a half between the two murders. So, like, if it was a stranger, like, what were they doing for that hour and a half in the house, you know? Or he wanted the husband but couldn't have him. I like it. Yeah, you couldn't, like Brian said, you couldn't really just leave at that time. That wasn't really an option for people. So, what was I going to next? So yeah, so for Lizzie to have done it, she would have had to, like, she would have had to be rehearsing for months in advance. She would have had to have it down to, like, nanos, like milliseconds. It's okay. Hello, Jitsia. Like, the timing was just so tight if she did it. And here's my thought is everyone makes a big deal about the fact that all the doors were locked, but no one really mentions the windows. And if it was a really hot day, like everyone says, the windows most likely would have been open. Because, you know, if they didn't have, like, full electricity, they definitely didn't have AC, you know? So someone could have probably gotten in that way. This is Jadzia, everyone. Hello. Are you inspecting? Did Barbara lock you out? That's so rude. I know. I'm a little busy. Can I work, please? Thank you. Thank you so much. Oh, thank you. I love it. This is perfect for me. This is Jadzia, yes. We are a very nerdy apartment, to say the least. Oh my gosh, my hair is on my face. Everyone says hi. Hello. How are you? Okay, I guess she's hanging out for the stream. My favorite shitting cat. Glad Deep Space Nine characters are well represented in this stream, apparently. I hope she doesn't make a mess for Trenchy to step in again. I didn't tell Barbara about that. I need to tell her about that. She wants me to look. Oh, I know, but my hands are, like, all epoxy right now. I really, really don't want to coat them in cat hair also. So this is the love that she's getting, is me allowing her to do this. What's your mom doing? Is she busy? Why are you here? Yes, hello. You're very cute. Okay. Hello, Holly. Welcome. It will make JR more unique to have a lot of cat hair, but then Sprocket will hate it. So thank you. Thank you so much. Don't be fooled, MK Ultra. This is an asshole cat. Yes, she can be super sweet and innocent, like she is right now, but she's also, like, the default mode is asshole cat, not sweetie cat. Don't be fooled. Like, remember how Brian stepped in her poop? I don't think it was an accident. Was it? Hmm? So yeah. So what was I saying? So were the two people killed by the same person? Most likely. There's no evidence to suggest otherwise. It is possible that it was multiple people, but, you know, there's no real way to tell, and the forensics weren't there at the time to say. And now there's just that's just not something that we would be able to tell. She is pretty, I know. JR is getting a bandana. So this is gonna be under the bandana. But, you know, I'm still taking my time to do it. Because I take my craft very seriously. But yeah. So, one of the other things that people use against Lizzie, so they always had the doors locked. That was just a thing that they did. They locked the doors from the inside when they would come home. And so that day, when Andrew Borden came home for lunch and a nap, his key didn't work. We don't know why. That has never been explained. It's just a thing that happened that day. And Bridget had to go and open the door for him, and apparently she had a little trouble getting it open, and she let out a little curse. We don't know what the curse was, but I'm sure it was something very scandalous, like, oh, phooey, or drat, you know, something like that. And she said later that upon this happening, she could hear Lizzie laugh, and it sounded like it was coming from upstairs. Are we good now? Oh, you hear your mom. Okay. Wasn't he feeling ill at work? Oh, yes. So I will definitely touch on that, because that's a whole thing. So yeah. So what people say is that there's no way that Lizzie could have been upstairs and not seen her stepmother's body. But here's the thing. So upstairs is very weird. I suggest that you all just Google really fast Lizzie Borden house floor plan and look at upstairs, because it's very weird. There's no hallway. So to get from bedroom to bedroom, like if you just wanted to get to your bedroom, odds are good that you had to walk through someone else's bedroom to get there. So that's just something that happened, like, it's really common in Tudor houses. Like hallways had to be invented. And so the room that the stepmom died in was the guest room. So it was the room that the uncle had stayed in the night before. Which, you know, some people think is sus. I think it could go either way, honestly. Sorry, one second. That doesn't sound normal for back in the day. Usually murders in town is what made everyone lock their door. Yeah, so they were like, I think that Andrew was like paranoid. So yeah, it was not a normal thing for them to always have the door locked. Like that was a Borden house quirk. And you know, it was probably because they were in the middle of downtown. Like this wasn't like in a quiet area. The fact that no one heard screams is very weird, because they were in the middle. It's like being in, like living in the middle of Wall Street. Like there were people constantly moving around in front of the house. Like,
hi, Holly.
But yeah, you are no longer stranger danger. Welcome.
Hi, Greg.
you said hi, Drew. And Drew is here, so I wasn't questioning that. Okay.
And a posture check.
I can't really move too much because of this camera. What is dress closet? What is a dress closet? So dress closet would have probably been an actual closet. Water closet would have been toilet. But dress closet, I would imagine, means closet. Excuse me. So for Lizzie to come downstairs, she would have had to walk past the room that her stepmother's body was in. And if you are going up the stairs, it would have been next to impossible to miss the body, because the body was lying on the floor on the other side of the bed. But if you're going up the stairs, for a moment you are at exact eye level with the body. So you would have seen it as you turned, and the body would have been right in front of you at your eye level. But if you're going down the stairs, that's not necessarily the case. But people act like it's the exact same. Like if you definitely saw the body going up, obviously you had to see the body going down. And that's just not how stairs work. Like, so that is not evidence. But so that's something that people, like, basically every piece of evidence against Lizzie is circumstantial at best. And every single one has an alternate explanation. Like, everything can be explained for her.
Well, if you don't like me, don't sit on my lap. Why are you...
Yeah, don't listen to Jadzia's bullshit complaints. She loves it.
It's like,
she's very happy right now.
I am, like, petting her and she's yelling at me about it.
Yeah, because you're doing it wrong. What if you climb stairs backwards? Then you are in The Exorcist, yes. So yeah. And then another thing that people like to say is that, like, Lizzie was being, like, too accommodating with her dad, and she wasn't ever that nice to him, or whatever. And, like, the person who said that is someone who doesn't like her dad. Like, everything is just gossip. It's all just gossip. Very few of the facts that we have are actual facts, which is why it's so exciting that all the journals and everything from Lizzie's defense lawyers have been found. Because they explain a lot of things. One day, I will read the full thing. I would actually really like to go there. It's not too far from here. It's in Massachusetts.
In Fall River?
Mm-hmm. Hi. JR said he's very conscious of his shoes, but one common is his high top Chuck Taylors. Got it. He always has 3 different colors or so. That sounds very much like JR. Unless you're like me and not paying attention and making sure you don't trip up the stairs and you won't notice anything. Yeah, exactly. Like, she could have just not been looking. Like, she didn't have to have seen it. You know? My hair is really bothering me whenever I look at the camera. Look at where Abby's body was found, then you might miss seeing it. Yeah, I absolutely think that it would have been very easy to miss if you were going down the stairs. I think it would have been difficult but not impossible to miss if you're going up the stairs. But I don't think that it's suspicious at all that Lizzie didn't see it while going downstairs. And we know that Abby was killed before Andrew because, by the way, Lizzie's middle name is Andrew. Apparently that was actually a fairly common thing back in the day for girls' middle names to be their father's names. I think that's interesting. Let's bring that back. Although, really, like, what even is gender? Everyone should be named whatever.
You heard it here first, folks. Everyone's name is now whatever.
Yeah.
We all have the same name. It's gonna work out perfectly.
Andy McDowell. What about Andy McDowell? Is Lizzie related to the Borden's cheese founders? Not that I'm aware of, but who knows? The bed could have hidden her. Yeah, she was on the other side of the bed. Like, while going upstairs, like, you would have been able to see it perfectly underneath the bed. Like, that eye line worked perfectly. Like, when you're going downstairs, it's behind you. Holly Allen. Match the shoes and banana. Got it. Thank you. Unless your father is a piece of shit, then maybe not. Her name is Candy. I didn't spend all this time and money to change my name so people could call me whatever. That's fair. Actually, after the murders, like, people think that Lizzie committed them because she wanted to live in, like, the nicer part of town and she wanted money and all this stuff. The thing is, like, she had all the money that she needed. She didn't need any more money. And, like, she could have just, you know, like, obviously it wasn't easy to move away as a single daughter, but it wasn't impossible. And, like, her father was already older than the general, like, the average age life expectancy. So she didn't really have a lot longer of having to put up with her father if they didn't get along, which it looks like they did. I learned that men and women of Russia have slightly different last names the hard way. Yeah, Russian names are very confusing if you are not already familiar with them. I have many Russian friends, and I have interacted with many Russians here in Brooklyn as well, like Russian immigrants.
Oh, I was researching some information on Gallic last night, and I found out that, you know how, like, a lot of Irish and Scottish names have, like, Mac in them?
Because that means son.
Yep, and, like, typically women would have the same last name, but instead of Mac, it was Nee, or something similar to that. I don't remember exactly. I was going to go back and look at it. But yeah, so, like, brothers and sisters would actually have slightly different first names, because it would be, like, MacDowell and Nee Dowell.
That's why women now, if they're married, they'll be listed as, like, let's say Jadzia and you get married. Jadzia's name will be listed as Jadzia Brian.
Yeah.
Nee Cat.
Yeah.
Like, that is a way of...
Nee Dax.
Because her last name right now is Cat.
Her last name is Dax.
I get that that's because the character, yes.
Yeah. I don't know why she's in my lap. I literally was rubbing, what do you call it? Aluminum foil on her face earlier because she'd gotten into my food. Like, a few hours ago, you were running from me because I had punished you. And to be clear, the punishment is not painful in any way. It's just extremely unpleasant.
We all have a very toxic relationship. Like, you should just break up, maybe.
I keep shoving her off my lap and she keeps coming back up.
So now let me talk about them all being sick. McNamara's son Bran is Bran McNamara.
Look at this. Look over it.
So the whole family had gotten sick abruptly, except for Lizzie, mostly. And yeah, that seems super sus until you find out that one of the ways that Andrew would save money is by making sure that leftovers all got eaten. And like that's cool for us now, but when you have no fridge and the leftovers are things like swordfish, that can go very badly if you're not careful, which they weren't. So basically the entire family got food poisoning, except for Lizzie, because Lizzie didn't eat with the family because she didn't like having to eat with her stepmom. And she also would refuse to eat the leftovers because she thought that it was...
Oh, no. Look.
Touch the paint can. Where is she? Oh, she's right there. Uh-oh. You just have to cause trouble, huh, Holly?
Yeah, I touched it. Ow.
You did it! Great success. Great success.
Now I have to fix the camera.
Are you happy, Holly? Are you happy? I'm from a Czech family. The male surname ends with and female ova, but everyone just goes by their name. That makes sense. All right. I think Abby had gone to the doctor. One of the people who had food poisoning had gone to the doctor, and the doctor was basically like, "Hey, maybe don't be eating leftovers that have probably gone bad." And was like, "Okay, cool. Just follow that, and you'll be fine." And so they went home and ate. You know that like medieval never-ending stew that would just be like constantly boiling over the fire, and you would just add more to it every day, and then you'd scoop out of it, and so it would just be different every day. They basically like had that. So they had like a mutton stew that had been on the stove for a while. So after getting the swordfish food poisoning, they went and got mutton stew food poisoning. The paint can is highly secure. On and off the stove. Thank you, Holly. Wow. Just come in, cause massive destruction and chaos, and then peace out. I see. Ultimate trolling.
I'm honestly surprised I didn't get bit.
Oh, yeah. So yeah, another piece of quote unquote evidence against
Good night,
Lizzie that isn't actually a thing. Good night, Holly. My dad had a workmate who was doing that in the 80s, the 1980s. Wow. In medieval ages, one of the ways to avoid poisoning yourself was to keep the cauldron ever hot. Yeah, totally. But if you're not being super careful about that, and I don't feel like the Bordens were, she's on high alert now, DEFCON 1. Why are you looking at me? I didn't touch it. She's looking at me with betrayal. You should be looking at Holly and Brian that way.
To be fair, you didn't stop me.
I'm busy. Sorry, trying to get this before it dries too much. We are right on that verge.
What kind of dog do you have, Ricky?
Okay. My dog Lou almost bit me today while I tried to get my destroyed sock back from him. Yeah. I'm familiar with that. Alright. So I think that's about JR's hair right there. Make sure that's movable. Okay. All black Pomeranians. Aww. I'm Kate Ultra. Give Schmeagle love. Oh, the Schmeag. This is from Kate Ultra. You're so cute and good. You're so good. You're such a good girl. I love you so much. I love you. The dogs. Yeah, I've seen a picture and I think video. Yeah, the video of them howling with the Smeags.
Question.
Mm-hmm.
You had some of the ice cream, right?
Yeah, somewhere.
Was it good? Look at the top of mine. Like, I've taken a bite out of it, but you see how it's crystallized?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does it taste weird?
Yeah.
Huh. We've had bad luck with ice cream this week.
She's destroying the camera position.
Of course she is. Yes. I thought so. Alright.
Okay, I need to.
So there's JR's hairs. Hi, are you comfy? You look comfy. Can you all see her? Okay, I don't think we have a box anymore. See, the thing is that the camera is attached to the paint can lid, and it smells like her paint. Hi. That works. Yeah, that's fine. Okay. They dropped him.
No.
Alright. So the family had been all sick, but they were mostly getting over it. Bridget was still feeling it. The day of the murders, Abby had sent her outside to wash the windows. Like, she was told to wash all the windows inside and out. And apparently multiple times that day she, threw up. At one point when she was cleaning inside, she had to, run outside to throw up. Which, as someone who deals with stomach issues, I am very sympathetic over. Was coming out both ends. As far as I know, just vomiting. But at this time, how graphic were they about it, you know? So, let's see. So, I'm not sure exactly how long before the murders this happened, but I think it was like a week before. Lizzie was definitely very lonely. Like, that is something that I get the sense of. And she loved animals. She, had dogs all of her life. She volunteered for an animal foundation. When she died, the big chunk of her money went to an animal foundation. She loved animals. And she had some pigeons that she was taking care of that lived in the barn. And, like, I think that she had, like, nursed them to health or something like that. So she, like, really cared about these pigeons. And I don't know exactly what the deal was. I don't know if he just hadn't been aware of it, or if he was, like, trying to punish her for something, or what. But apparently, Andrew went out to the barn and killed the pigeons. Different accounts, like, they vary. Some say that he, like, wrung their necks, like, to make food. And then other people say that, like, he cut off their heads with a hatchet. But, you know, some things just are a little too perfect to be anything but urban legend.
Oh, good night, alien sock puppy.
Good night, alien sock puppy. Sleep well. Was she a crazy cat lady? No, she was a dog lady. You want to be on a ladder when you have food poisoning. Yeah. You can pay points. Gross. But yeah. Okay.
Now, when you read that and you visualized it, because that's how normal brains work,
Mm-hmm.
did you see the walls painted, or did you see the process of them being
Process.
painted? Okay.
I try to avoid picturing vomit if at all possible.
Vomit, yeah, that's what it was.
Or anything like that. So yeah. So what was I about to say? So yeah, so Lizzie was obviously just, like, devastated by this. And so some people like to be like, so obviously she murdered him. But, like, you know, Ariel didn't murder King Triton after he destroyed her cave of wonders or whatever. I know that's Aladdin, not Little Mermaid, but you know. So yeah, so let's go to the murders, because I love telling stories in a non-linear fashion. That's most of what I do. So that morning, Abby had said that she was gonna go and make the guest bedroom bed, since the girl's uncle had slept there the night before. And by the way, he was their mother's brother. So the only people he was related to in that house were the sisters, Lizzie and Emma. He was not related to their father. But they had, like, you know, a brotherly relationship from when he was married to their mom, who had died when Lizzie was about 3 from, we're not sure exactly what it was, but on her death certificate, it says uterine congestion, which is kind of terrifying. So, like, some of the speculation is that it was uterine cancer, or what's endometriitis?
Endometriosis.
Endometriosis, there we go, thank you. Or what's the other thing that they said? I think miscarriage is possible. But yeah, so we don't know what, something to do with her uterus. And so Lizzie's sister was 11, but Lizzie was only 2 or 3, because they were 9 years apart, which is wild. I smooshed the braids, so now I just gotta fix them again.
Yeah. You're a fucking nightmare dog.
You make things interesting. Are you comfortable? What about the poison Lizzie tried to buy? Okay, yes. So, Prince Eric's statue. The Cave of Wonders is alive.
Smeagol!
Hey! We're having fun.
Oh.
Hey! Hey! Are you having fun? Madam.
I will get you another box.
I smushed it again.
Hold on. I'm gonna leave that right there for the moment.
This camera and I are friends. R.I.P. Ricky Spears. I think that's Peach. So yeah. So the poison, was Lizzie had gone a couple days before the murders to the pharmacy to buy.
Nope. You get this one.
What kind of acid? Prussic acid?
Prussic.
Prussic acid.
It's just hydrogen cyanide.
Yeah, so a type of cyanide.
It's the kind of cyanide.
The kind of cyanide.
Like, when people say cyanide, they mean that's that.
She said that she needed it to, like, seal the edges of a sealskin cape that she was making. Which is one of the uses of that. And the dude refused to sell it to her. He said later because he found her so suspicious and all that, but, like, everyone was saying that afterwards. They were like, obviously, she was suspicious. Whereas, like, are you having fun? Smeagol.
Ma'am, this is a Wendy's.
Calm down, please. She's showing off for you guys. She's not normally this wild. Alright. So, yeah, so she did give a legitimate reason for why she wanted it. Obviously, it's sus to be buying poison and then, or be trying to buy poison and then a few days later your family is murdered. But, like, that doesn't necessarily mean anything. You know, like, it's circumstantial evidence. Especially because they didn't die via poisoning. And there's no evidence whatsoever that they were poisoned.
If they were,
they actually tested the stomachs, and there was no poison.
I was gonna say, even if they were, it's like, it seems like a fucking waste. It's like, I'm gonna poison them so there's no evidence, and then hack them to death with a hatchet.
Yeah, right?
Really?
So yeah, so that's one of the pieces of evidence against her, is that she was trying to buy poison. But again, I'm pretty sure that this dude said, no, I'm not going to sell this to a woman. That's how I see it having gone down. I have no evidence as to that. But, like, I think he's like, little lady, go and get your husband's permission. And then later on, when she was up for a murder charge, he was like, well, I thought she was suspicious. She looked like a murderer. And the judge did not allow that as evidence at the trial. He was like, that doesn't show anything. And also, like, we don't know for sure that it was her. Like, it could have been anyone. And even if it was her, so, you know. And they weren't poisoned. They had food poisoning. But, yeah.
They did that to themselves.
Yeah. Don't eat leftover swordfish when you don't have a fridge.
Maybe just don't eat leftover fish. in general.
Also,
Maybe
words
next
of
day.
wisdom.
Next day, max.
Yeah, this was a couple days later.
Yeah.
So.
And definitely don't eat fish from last July.
Smiggle's very happy now, being pet by producer Ryan. Very happy.
She's pinned down.
Alright. All women are guilty of murder, just by virtue of being a woman. So, okay, let's talk about more pieces of evidence against her. One of the big ones is that a couple days after the murder, or the day after the murder, something like that, Lizze was supposedly burning a dress. The evidence comes from her sister and her friend Emily? It doesn't matter. Her friend. And basically they found Lizze burning a dress. And she said that paint had gotten all over it, and so the cloth was ruined, and that she needed the fixings of the dress, like the buttons and stuff, because she had to make new clothes, which was true. Like, she was now in mourning, and so she had to have an entirely new wardrobe. And the I want to say the banister of the staircase had been painted that day. So there was wet paint in the house, and on top of that, it was testified that the paint on the outfit, on the clothes, because they saw the paint, lots of people are like, oh, red paint. No, it was green paint. Like, there was green paint all over the fabric, and if you've ever gotten paint all over your clothes, like, the fabric is useless after that. Like, you can't just use the fabric that has paint all over it, dried paint all over it. Like, it's useless fabric. And her friend was like, Lizze, are you crazy? Like, that's the worst thing that you could have done right now. Like, that, it looks suspicious. And Lizze was like, oh, it does. But also, remember, the day of the murder, she had been dosed with morphine and caffeine. And she kept on being dosed with morphine and caffeine, or definitely morphine, presumably caffeine. Like, through the trial, I believe, like, for a long time. So, presumably, at this point, she would have been doped up. So of course she wasn't thinking clearly. She was like, oh, this dress is ruined, I'm gonna burn it. You know, like, you aren't making logical thought processes when you're fucked up like that. Wait, let's see. According to that lawyer, how dare she burn a dress? She is rich. Yeah, you pointing it out makes her look more suspicious than her burning it. Yeah, like, yeah, I think that it was a very stupid decision that she made to burn it. But I don't think that it is necessarily an indicator of guilt. Yes, suspicious. Yes, dumb. Guilty, I don't know. Alright, let's see, what else? So when Abby had been upstairs making the guest room bed, someone had come up to her, like, from, like, in front of her. Like, they didn't sneak up behind her necessarily. At least the first blow came from someone facing her, and got, like, the side of her head, and so she kind of, like, spun and fell. And then whoever was going after her, like, kept going after her. Eventually she had 19 blows. And when they found the body was, like, partially under the bed, and in a way that made it look like she was trying to escape from the attacker. But like I mentioned earlier, when they took the photos, that was after they had moved the body, fixed her dress, moved the bed, poked about her wounds. Like, that's not a crime scene photo the way that we know it. So within a couple hours of that murder, so she was just, like, the body was just lying there. And when people came home and asked where Abby was, Lizzie said that she had received a note from a sick friend and had gone to visit them. And that's considered suspicious because they never found a note. But remember, Dr. Bowen, who I personally find sus AF, stopped the police from putting together the pieces of a torn up note and threw them in the fire before they could figure out what they said. So there was a note. Everyone's just like, there was no note. There was never a note. So obviously she was lying. No, there was a note. It just got destroyed by someone else. Someone who was a trusted family friend. Okay. I think... And I can put this down for a little bit. Okay. Look at her face. She's so happy and cute. Oh, I love her so much. Look at that face.
All the camera can see is your bag right now.
Oh, that's fine. Based on this evidence, let's burn her at the stake guilty of being a human murder. Maybe not. Maybe most likely not, but who cares? Yeah. I mean, it's the whole, mob mentality, and it's the same thing with Amanda Knox, and with the West Memphis 3, and so on and so forth. There's this horrific crime that is very unusual for the location. The police are completely out of their depth because that's not something that they normally have to deal with. And, as a result, they're facing a lot of pressure to solve the murder as soon as possible. And so they're not being as particular about, possible explanations as they might be otherwise. It's interesting to note that pear seeds contain amygdalin, which turns into cyanide in the stomach. Well, there was no cyanide. There was no evidence of poison on either of them. Sorry, I just noticed that my thing's all messed up still. Again, I don't know. Yeah, so, the whole, thing of her trying to buy poison, yes or no, it doesn't really matter because there was no poison. Okay, there we go. Drew in Georgia, it's a Monty Python reference. So yeah, yeah, okay. So the Abby was lying there dead upstairs, and everyone was just kind of resuming life downstairs. If it were a low enough dose, it could have made them sick. When they didn't die, she decided to kill them, but not necessarily when detected. It's possible. She still, as far as we know, she didn't, have access to any. She tried to buy some, and got turned away. So, if she had some, where did she get it? You know? It wasn't a big city or anything that she lived in. I'm trying to see if I can get her to be...
Might have helped if I had said better. I got better.
I'm here for you, Drew. That's not what I wanted to draw off. everything but the piece that I wanted to come off came off. So that's cool. Have I gotten to the Criminal Minds episode that has a reference to the Salem witch trials? I don't think so. But I'll keep an eye out. I'm excited to get to the episode based on Amanda Knox. That's actually what convinced me to watch the show, was listening to Amanda Knox talk about the episode about Amanda Knox. And how it kind of like felt for her watching it and everything. I feel like the doctor put her up to it, maybe helped her, maybe he was interested in Lizzie, but the parents would object. He was married and he was older. I don't know how much older. He lived right across the street. And when the bodies were discovered, so Lizzie discovered her dad's body, and he had lain down for a nap. I'm trying to see if I can make it look like she's holding a mic. We're gonna find out together if I can. I might just re-sculpt the hand. That might... Okay. What's I saying? He was married. Oh, yeah, so when the bodies were discovered, Lizzie called for the maid Bridget. So one of the weird things about the maid and their like relationship to her is that her name was Bridget, but they all called her Maggie. Now, I've heard two different explanations for this, or possible explanations for this. One is that that was the name of the maid that they had before, and they're like, well, we don't want to have to learn another name, so we're just going to call you Maggie. Which is entirely possible. That sounds like a rich people thing to do. Then the other explanation that I heard was that that was just, like, a name for Irish maids at the time. Like, all Irish maids were called Maggie. For whatever reason. So, I don't know which one is true, but I do know that Bridget's name was not Maggie, and they called her Maggie. That is the fact. There we go. Does that take it? Okay. I can make it work. Alright, Franny's gonna be holding a microphone. Because she's a star.
No. Oh, nightmare terror. You're gonna sit right here.
So, when Lizzie came across the bodies, she called for Bridget, and she yelled, "Oh, Maggie, come quick, someone's come in and killed father." Like, which is a weird way of saying it, but, like, I don't think that there's a right or a wrong way to react to something like this. And I think that everyone finding her suspicious for reacting the wrong way to her father's brutal murder, like, I don't want to make it sound like I'm being like, I think that she's innocent and I'm ignoring all evidence to the contrary. Like, it's that none of the evidence to the contrary, like, checks out as more than circumstantial, maybe. And so I think that that's something that a lot of people have never considered, because her guilt has always just kind of been an assumed thing. Like, how many of you knew that she was acquitted, like, in the trial, when she went to trial for her parents' murder, or her dad's murder and her stepmom? Like, she was acquitted. She was found not guilty. Not only was she found not guilty, the jury only was gone from the courtroom for half an hour. And they said that they were gone for that long because they didn't want to make it look like they weren't taking it seriously. Like, apparently they basically walked out of the courtroom, all looked at each other and went, so she didn't do it, right? And they're like, yeah, obviously. And then they just kind of like chilled for 25 minutes. Like, there was no debating. They were all very convinced that she had not done it. Guilty in the court of public opinion. Yeah, exactly. It ruined her life. Like, if she committed these murders because she wanted a better life and she wanted more money and she wanted to live in, like, the nicer part of town, that last part came true. She lived in the nicer part of town. But, like, people turned against her. And, like, if she is innocent, which, like I said, I think that she is. Oh, $69. Nice. Hello, $27. Thank you so much for the raid. Welcome, everyone. Nice. Welcome. This is Okay So, and we are doing custom Funko Pops while talking about Lizze Borden. Thank you so much. Love the Scottish flag. Doing the waving. Also, they didn't think a woman could commit such a heinous crime like that. Yeah, that was very much an assumption. Can you scroll down, please?
I don't know why.
Yay, thank you so much. This is Okay So, where I talk about a historical topic, from memory, like, with little to no notes. Tonight is no notes. And I sculpt and paint custom Funkos while I do that. And thank you, Buttspot. Yay, check out $27. $27 is a great channel. Politics. While getting high AF, hell yeah. I'm at the ready. And I've kind of been on a little true crime kick. Thank you for the follows. Oh my gosh, so many. Late Bloomer 66, Mavericket, Chantilly T, Bandy ET, Sir Yogi One. Oh, that's funny. Motku, Calliope Dragon, excellent name. Core 10K, thank you so much for the follows. I really appreciate it. And I hope that you enjoy. I've been on kind of a true crime kick lately, and I've been really focused on people who are wrongfully accused. So I started out with the West Memphis 3, or wrongfully convicted, wrongfully accused. Then I did Amanda Knox, and right now I'm working on Lizze Borden, or talking about Lizze Borden. What am I putting it? Oh yeah, how did your stream go, $27? I obviously was not able to catch it tonight. I hope it went well. I keep on like kind of like descending into temporary silence because of focusing on sculpting. So please forgive.
Oh, and
we
also,
chose poorly. Oh.
Also, thank you for the follow, William.
Oh yes, thank you. The disembodied voice off camera is producer Brian, aka Trenchy, aka Oh Crap Guy, aka Oh Shit Guy. He is the producer, and he is keeping Smeagol in check. That is my dog Smeagol. She likes to guard random objects, and right now she's trying to guard the camera and the box that the camera's on. So this is what we call Golem mode. Right now she's back to Smeagol. But when she starts growling, that's Golem mode. Thank you for the follow, Radical Maniac. Love the handle. Where are you in the timeline of Lizze Borden? We are talking about the murders and basically going over all the evidence against her and how it doesn't line up, or how it's circumstantial at best. Lots and lots of different reasons why, obviously. And I will totally wind up recapping a bunch of them, which is totally fine. Thank you for the follow, Lilybug. That's a cute name. And yeah, so, talking about the discovery of the bot, where was I? Does anyone remember what I was talking about?
They just got out of the trial after 30 minutes.
Oh, I talked about that. Yeah, like, so I'm kind of skipping around. Like, one of the fun things about not working with a script is that I just kind of talk about what pops into my brain. So we're kind of just bopping around. This Funko that I'm working on right now, by the way, is Francesca Fiorentini. She is one of the hosts over at TYT. And she's also a stand-up comedian, so I am sculpting her holding a microphone, and then we're gonna use the 3D printer to give her a mic stand and a stool with a bottle of water on top of it. I am currently letting this one dry. This is another TYT host, J.R. Jackson, so I have the dreads that I've been working on. The cat is going to be turned into his dog Sprocket. Yeah, Franny! So here's how she's looking right now. So right now I'm just working on that microphone and making it look right. I can show you the ones that I've mostly finished, or that I have finished. Here is Anna Kasparian on the Salt Dragon, wearing the outfit that she wore when she debated Ben Shapiro. So these ones I finished earlier this week. I've got Cenk Uygur right here. Where are you, camera? There we go. With his Too Strong coffee mug.
I'll grab that second.
Yeah. Mic stand and stool. Yeah. Who came up with the mic stand idea? Someone suggested it because I was stuck. Where did she go?
Franny?
Yeah. Hopefully I didn't just fuck it up.
I'm not sure. Oh, there goes the camera.
I fucked that up. Oh, nope, that's Audie.
But you're holding it.
That was responsible of me. I'm holding her to make sure that it doesn't get fucked up.
Alright, hold on.
Ben Shapiro is such a cuck. I hate that we share a religion. What an idiot of a pseudo-intellectual.
Stay.
Agreed. Thank you very much. Why do they always have a stool with a bottle of water? Is it that hard to have a table? Well, because then that way, if, like, they need to sit for whatever reason, they can. A table, some people have tables, but honestly, a table's more distracting. Like, that's just kind of there. And, yeah, she's coming to Brooklyn, finally, and I'm very excited about it. Because I've been very jealous that after I leave LA, she's always performing in LA.
Oh,
so,
and
they can sit on a bottle of water. Oh, yeah, here's Jordan Ewell. With his hat and his headphones. Here's Jordan. Oh, yeah. And here is Brett and Brooke. Brett doing the dab of doom, and Brooke ready to put her face on. That's the collection as it stands now. And I did the one that is behind John on the TDR set of him riding a dragon. That was my first one. Oh, we absolutely have to go, obviously. How can we not go see Franny when she's finally in Brooklyn? I had a dream that, like, I saw an ad for her performing, and this was a couple of weeks ago. I saw an ad for her performing, and then I got all sad because I'm like, wait, I'm not in LA. And then she announced that she was coming to Brooklyn, so honestly, obviously, the dream was prophecy. But yeah, so, Lizzie Borden. So we talked about the jury. That was the last thing mostly discussed. So when she discovered the body, she yelled for Bridget, except she called her Maggie, And like I said right before the raid, there are multiple explanations for why she would have called her Maggie. One of the explanations given is that that was the name of their last maid and they just didn't want to have to learn another name. I find that one a little weak compared to the explanation that it was like the slightly racist term for all Irish maids at the time. You know, or at least colloquially. And Lizzie was definitely racist. And the race to hate du jour was Portuguese. When the police showed up, one of the first things that they asked was, have you seen any Portuguese around? Like, that was their first question for evidence. So that's the time that we're talking about right now. I might actually come to New York soon. Ooh, my partner's dad wants to see it. There's a lot to see. I will eventually become a licensed guide. That will happen. I got a little distracted by starting a live stream. Okay, I think that is about how that's gonna get. Got something in my eye. Awesome. Okay. Just men in that jury? Yes. So they were all men, and a lot of her supporters really fought against that. They said, like, well, she's not going to be tried by a jury of her peers because women can't vote, so they can't be on the jury. And so she was going to be tried by a jury of white men.
Oh, either move the blanket down or move.
Oh.
Yeah.
Bro, my dad's Portuguese. Oh, did your dad murder the Bordens? Calliope Dragon. The statute of limitations may or may not have run out. I don't think there's a statute of limitations for murder, but... so one of the things that I started out talking about was the fact that a giant cache of journals and scrapbooks and stuff from one of Lizzie's defense lawyers was discovered around 1940, and the family finally gave it to the Historical Society of the town in 2012. That's how long it took. And so they just released a book of the transcriptions of the journals and stuff. Not all of them, but most of them. And I want it. But yeah, so basically it answers a lot of questions that we have, raises a bunch of new questions, of course. Yeah, it just has a bunch of insight into the case and explains a lot of why she couldn't have done it. I started off with quoting Last Podcast on the Left, who has probably the best summary of the case that I found podcast-wise. They are on Spotify only, I believe. So if you look up Last Podcast on the Left and Lizze Borden, I definitely recommend their episodes. They just came out this last December, so they incorporate a lot of the newer evidence. Oh my gosh. Me just not sculpting a hand correctly. Wasn't there a similar axe murder nearby? Yes, there was. There was a difference, though, that made it seem like it probably wasn't the same person. What was that difference? I'll remember what the difference was. Not murder, but most other crimes. New Orleans had a serial killer that used an axe, so did Chicago. Yeah, axe murders are fairly common. But there was one in, I think it was in another town a couple miles away, that there was another axe murder that was honestly close enough that people should have paid more attention to it. But at that point, everyone was so focused on Lizzie that they just didn't. And like I said, there's some reason why it looks like it's probably not related, and I'll remember why. I'll get there. Don't worry. But when they look, so another reason why a lot of evidence is non-existent, besides the fact that the crime scene photos are not actually crime scene photos the way that we understand crime scene photos to be. They are after the bodies and the furniture had been moved around. They basically were like, this is about where they were, and like fixed up details to make it look more respectable, like rearranging Abby's skirts. I believe that they put Andrew's boots back on. They definitely moved his jacket. Like a lot of it is all moved around. For the photos of Abby, like one of the photos, they moved the entire fucking bed. Like, this is not, you know, crime scene analysis the way that we know it now. Like, this is 1892, so it's only 4 years after Jack the Ripper. Actually, almost exactly 4 years after Jack the Ripper, because the murders happened on August 4th, and if I recall correctly, the first Jack the Ripper murder is August 8th? I think so? I'm really bad with dates, so that could be wrong. Something. Yeah. So that's why a lot of the evidence isn't the way that we consider evidence. The reason why, so we talked about how the autopsies were done in the dining room, which is gross. So it wasn't like a full autopsy. Basically what they did was they removed the stomachs of the two. Like the coroner removed their stomachs and like tied off the ends to like keep what was in there preserved. And that's about where his competence ends. He then proceeded to leave the two of them lying on a table in the morgue, not in the dining room, for 5 days with no refrigeration, during a heat wave. So by like, we don't know why. Like, what was more important? He just had other shit to do, I guess. And so, like, when he returned, a lot of it was destroyed. Like, the bodies were in horrible states of decomposition. There was a lot of stuff that he could no longer tell, because it was destroyed. And like, that's the level of competence that we're working with here, really. One of the other things that was brought up as like proof against Lizzie was part of her alibi was that she was in the barn up in the loft eating pears, and they tried to say like it was way too hot for you to be in the barn eating pears, even though the high that day was 82. And then then they tried to be like, well, you couldn't have been up there because I looked up there and there was dust just covering all of it, and so no one was up there, and so you're a liar. Except that then some boys came forward to say that the day of the murders they wanted a better view of what was going on, so they went in the barn and climbed up into the loft and looked out the window to like watch the goings-ons below. So the dust was definitely disturbed if it was there at all. Like, so basically just they were caught in a lot of lies. I know that it's a shock to believe that the police and the legal system could lie, but yeah, it was a different time back then. where it dries too much.
Paige says, sounds like normal police and work, and police work going on since 1776. And before. Like, you know.
Yeah.
And after.
Before that, they were just in another country besides the United States.
And here.
Like, the colonies.
Now. And also everywhere.
Always, all the time.
All cops are bastards.
You sent John a pic of the 69 raid in your comment. Did I know that ship was in here? I knew that ship was in here. I already said hi. Yeah. Boop boop ba doop ba doop. Did I say that? Because that sounds like something I would say. But yeah, okay. So there's Randy's book in hand. So, yay. Let's check JR out. Shall we? Oh no, the front got squished. Damn it, Danny. Do better than this. Okay. So let's look at more evidence. JR said black or dark blue is all he wears for bandanas anymore. I was planning on black, so that works perfectly. Thank you. I'm just gonna try and fix these shoes. Alright. So let's see. So what else? There's the whole thing about was she gay? I have no idea. No one does. Like, she was a quote-unquote spinster. She did not like men. She was uncomfortable around men.
But
never
she
spent
was a
time
woman,
with men.
so...
Yeah, she was a woman in the late 19th century. Like, yeah, that's how that happened. Pro butt roar.
I'm going to reuse my comment on the stream from the, earlier at the beginning. That one.
Oh, yeah. Oh my gosh. So yeah, Lizzie was definitely racist. When the bodies were discovered, she told Bridget to go and find the doctor. And like it was a specific doctor that she wanted her to go find. And when that doctor wasn't home, Lizzie was like, okay, we'll go check this other doctor. Basically any doctor but the Portuguese doctor, like, next door. Or the, I think there, yeah, an Irish doctor nearby. So, yeah, basically she would only take the white doctors? I don't know. Like, people being racist against Irish is confusing to me. Like, I thought you cared about skin. Now we care about other stuff? Like, racism is confusing. How do racists do it? Like, how do you keep all that straight?
They're confused.
Yeah.
I mean, these aren't necessarily, generally speaking, aren't really the most clever people available.
That's true.
I guarantee you, they don't keep it straight.
Yeah.
Well, that's another problem with WASP.
WASP
anyway.
only need apply, pretty much, yeah. And yeah, so, Dr. Bowen wasn't home, but, like, came rushing over and wound up being, like, one of the first people there anyway. Which, again, I find him sus AF. And that just kind of adds to it for me. So, yeah. So her racism definitely worked against her that day. Oops. So, after the murders, like, her life was not good. She, like, one of the motivations that people give for her to have murdered her father and stepmother was for money. But the thing was that, like, Lizzie was fine. She had a lot of money already. Like, she did not need to murder her dad. Thank you, Gambit08, for the follow.
And I don't know if we mentioned Lilybug.
I did, because I said I liked that handle.
Okay. I was probably distracted with the monster next to me.
Probably. Ow.
Sorry.
So yeah, so she moved to the neighborhood that she wanted to live in before. And like basically became a recluse. Like, she only had friends that she knew from before that she could trust. She was already an introvert. Butt box. And she basically, like, just stayed at home with her dogs. And she died at 67 from... She got sick. I can't remember what it was exactly. And, like, the thing is, like, she became, like, the ghoul of the neighborhood for the neighborhood kids, you know? Like, they would dare each other to ring her doorbell and stuff like that. You know, that house. Everyone had one of those houses. We thought that R.L. Stein lived in ours. I told him that on Twitter, and he thought it was very funny. NBD, R.L. Stein, acknowledged my tweet once. Emma died 9 days later. Yeah. So they had a falling out.
You did that on your own.
Like, we don't know exactly what the falling out was over. Some of the speculation is that it's because Lizzie had become friends with a famous actress. Apparently, she used to come here to New York all the time and would go and see shows on Broadway, which just makes me love her even more. And it makes me all excited, like, ooh, if I go to, like, one of the really old Broadway theaters, I could possibly, you know, like, sit where she sat. Obviously not the same chair, but, like, that's still exciting to think about. Because I'm a nerd like that. But yeah, so she became, very good friends with one of the, like, famous actresses of the time. And I do not know, genuinely do not know if that is gal pals or, like, actually platonic friends, you know? Could go either way. And not really my business either way. But the two sisters lived together, and then they had some sort of falling out, and Emma made, like, veiled comments about, like, not approving of something about Lizzie's lifestyle, or her friends, or something like that, in a way that, like, if you want to, you can read it as, oh, she's mad that her sister was, you know, in a relationship with a woman. But you can also not read it that way. Like, who knows? And yeah, they never spoke again. Like, they died 9 days apart and had not made up, which I think is super sad. Oh, thank you for gifting a sub to Calliope Dragon, Drew in Georgia. 27, hell yeah.
Goes well with the recent stream. The 27 subs they've gifted.
Yeah. With the recent stream? Did we do the 27 code?
No, because $27.
Oh.
Yeah.
With who rated. Got it.
Yeah. It's just like, it's interesting. Yeah. It's completely meaningless. Leave me alone.
So all of these things that, like, I don't think I can ever watch any sort of Lizzie Borden thing again without getting mad about the inaccuracies. Just like I can't watch any Anne Boleyn things. Because if you're new, I have strong feelings about Anne Boleyn. She's my girl. And yeah, so there is a like urban legend that on her deathbed, Bridget said that like she had lied at the trial to keep Lizzie safe or something like that, but like all hearsay. Almost definitely did not actually happen.
And even if that did happen, it could be like she was with her and like knew that there was something that would look really bad, but literally knew she hadn't actually done the murders.
Yeah. Honestly, like, I'm not saying that I think that this is what happened. I am just saying it would have been easier for Bridget to do the murders than it would have been for Lizzie to. I don't think that Bridget did them. But it would have been easier for her than it would have been for Lizzie.
It makes even less sense to say that Lizzie would have done it than if saying that Maggie did it. Right. We have seen some of your messages.
Not a lot of
on,
them.
But
if you've been saying stuff throughout, I haven't seen a lot of them. I'm so sorry. I bet they were really good. If I don't acknowledge them, it usually just means that I didn't see it or it didn't go through. But yeah. Let me think. Okay, one of the like gross things that I'm gonna say really fast. Plug your ears if you don't like gross things. Apparently, her dad, like, one of the axe blows had sliced his eyeball in half, and I didn't know that you could do that. Like, I thought it was kind of like a pop thing. Like, I didn't know it could be a slice thing. You know? Felt sorry for Mary, the sister of Anne. Do you mean Abby? The stepmom?
Or Anne Boleyn.
Oh, Mary Boleyn, sister of Anne Boleyn. Yes, sorry. Wow, my brain moved like way too fast. I have feelings and opinions.
Lower.
But yeah, neither of those women had a particularly easy life, to say the least. Or death, like, or legacy sense. I have very strong feelings about the other Boleyn girl. You were thinking more balloon and less onion. Just saw the pic of her mom's back of her head shaved to show the axe wounds. Yeah, they were annihilated. And one of the things that I think, like, obviously could have been faked, but I don't think was, at the trial, the prosecution decided to bring in the skulls to show the damage. And when they unveiled the skulls, I read somewhere else that, like, wind blew the handkerchief off of the skull, but I think that it's just, like, the prosecution unveiled them. Lizzie fainted. Like, she screamed and fainted. Like, yeah, she could have acted that, but, like, that's not really the way that an innocent person would act, you know? And she didn't have warning that it was going to happen. So, really fast thinking on her feet, if that was acting. And yeah, so they said that, like, they searched everywhere for the murder weapon, for the hatchet, and, like, could never find it, even though they looked every possible place. But then apparently, like, a couple years later, some boys just, like, walking around behind the house found it. Like it had just been, like, tossed aside. But, you know, by then, like, the trial and everything had already happened, so it didn't matter. But, like, how hard did you actually look? You know? not 41 whacks, but at least 7 that I counted. The stepmom had 19, and the dad had 11. So 19 and 11. Like, she definitely got the brunt of it, which, you know, works against Lizzie. But yeah, like, they were wrecked. The dad, like, his face was just gone. Most of the photos that we see have the face covered or blurred, but not all of them. There are some out there. Just singing Misfits in my head. I want your skull. That's funny. But yeah, like, these were like rage murders. Absolutely. These were someone had shit to work out. Whoever it was. Not necessarily against the parents, like, but, you know. There were also a lot of people who didn't like the dad. The day before the murders, Lizzie had been over at her friend's house and had mentioned how, like, worried she was that something was going to happen. There had been a burglary, like, the week before the murders. Someone had come in and stolen a bunch of stuff. People, for some reason, have fixated on the idea that it was actually Lizzie, but there's no actual evidence to point that way.
It's gonna get up, and I knew the second I moved.
More towards the mom, it seems. Oh yeah, definitely. Like, there was definitely extra rage at Abby. But was that because it was a stepchild who hated her? Or was it because it was an intruder who hated women? You know? But yeah. What else is there? There are more things that I've definitely not covered. I'm trying to remember. Oh! Butt butted in the face. Hey, Chris PA, welcome. So yeah, let me think of what else. Oh, okay. So let me tell you about, like, the main reason why I don't think there's any possible way that Lizzie could have done this. Is that there was such a tight time frame that it had to be in. What?
Nothing. I'm an adult.
And, like, so it would have had to be planned out, like, in detail to the second, right? And one of the things was that whoever did this had, like, there's variations on how much blood people think that there would have been, but everyone agrees that there would have been blood, right? And Lizzie did not have blood on her. There was one dress later that people found that supposedly had blood on it, but like 2 drops. Literally just 2 drops of blood. Whereas, like, whoever did this would have had more than 2 drops. And, like, so whoever did this would have been sprayed with blood. Like, that's unavoidable. And that seems like something that is, you know, like, easily workaroundable if you're looking at it from a 20th, 21st century perspective. But if you're looking at it from a late 19th century perspective, like, how are they going to get cleaned up really fast? How are they going to change clothes really fast? Like, as a woman, how do you change out of that dress that you need help getting in and out of? How do you get your hair done again? Like, washed out, dried, redone in the same elaborate style? Like, how do you do that? Like, it's just, it would not have been possible. And she, like, sure, maybe there was time between murdering her dad and calling for Bridget. But the thing is that when they found her dad's body, it was still bleeding. Like, it was fresh. And, like, Lizzie was, you know, fully dressed with her hair done and dried. Like, there's no way that she could have done it in time given. Like, even Abby, like, she didn't have enough time to change, and then on top of that, like, they never found, like, there's the dress that she burned the next day, but I already talked about that, so if you came in later, she burned a dress, but, what if she did the literal 2 holes in a sheet ghost and axed them that way? There are a lot of things that people have come up with, like, here's how she could have done it. Everyone's favorite version is the one that the prosecution came up with in court, that she had done the murders naked, which literally, like, they got laughed at in the courtroom when they suggested that as an option. Like, it was just, like, so ridiculous.
It's, like, ridiculous in terms of believing a person would do that necessarily, but it's not ridiculous in terms of if someone is extremely cunning, it would work.
Right. But also, there's still the fact that, like, getting in and out of the dresses that she wore, she couldn't have done that.
Yeah.
Like, and then there's still the hair. Like, sure, she could have been, like, completely covered up, but, like, how do you do that quickly?
With help from Maggie.
Like, yeah. It definitely would have had to be more than one person, I think. Or it had to be someone with experience doing assassinations. And yeah. So yeah, not impossible, but exceedingly improbable. I've never sculpted all-stars just before. This is weird. Okay. So let's see. What else is there? I know I haven't covered it all because there's so much. Assassin's Creed did it. I feel like the sheet would have shielded her from the guilt of being seen by her parents at the moment she attacked. Even if she had fully covered herself with the sheet, like, still not possible. Like, there still would have been the evidence. Like, part of it was that they didn't find bloody clothes or anything. Like, there was the dress that she burned, but the dress that she burned was actually covered in paint, and it was green paint. Like, it wasn't, you know, like, blood that she was passing off for paint, unless her parents had green blood, which is weird. And, like, they didn't find blood anywhere. The only thing that they found with blood on it was a bucket in the basement that had a bunch of bloody rags soaking in it. Now, why do you think there would have been regularly buckets of rags that have blood on them soaking in the cellar? Because this is something that happened regularly, let's say once a month. And, like, Lizzie even said that, like, for a proper lady at this time to, like, come forward and be like, those are my menstruation rags. Like, that was, like, not something that you did unless, like, you had to. And, of course, you know, like, a guilty person could have used that to their advantage just to, like, say it to get the dudes to be like, oh, okay, blah, 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 because that's absolutely what happened. But, like, that still would have brought more embarrassment to her than it would have been worth, I believe. Yeah. She couldn't dispose of the hatchet handle. No, so they found the hatchet blade, and they found no handle. But the thing is that they found a box or a bucket full of hatchet parts. Like, because that's just something that you would have found in a 19th century barn. Like, all these things that seem suspicious to 21st century eyes or 20th century eyes all have extremely boring explanations for 19th century life. The braids keep on getting slightly smooshed and therefore losing their texture. It's part of the problem of sculpting more than one part at once. But yeah, so they found the hatchet blade that they thought could possibly have done it, but like at the time, the only thing that they could do, like if they did find blood, was that they could determine if it was animal or human. Like they didn't even have blood types at this point. So they found a rusty hatchet that they're like, there might be blood on here. But like they couldn't even tell if it was animal or human. So it clearly hadn't just been used to do the murders, you know? Flow, yeah. So yeah, so in court, the menstruation rags came up again and, you know, had a similar reaction from the male courtroom. But, like, that's something that they would have avoided mentioning at all if they could have. Because, God forbid, we acknowledge that women have bodies! I thought the blade was stuck in Andrew's skull. No. There was a lot of damage. I believe that there were a couple wounds that, like, took a lot of strength to get removed. Yes, madam? I lost my weed. Weed. Come back. Yes, well, I know. Yeah, like, I don't know, there's so many theories and stuff that are honestly just insulting to the family, like, all around. And I think that that's just sad. Like, obviously she's gotten most of the brunt of it, mostly thanks to that, rhyme, schoolyard rhyme, or whatever you want to call it. But yeah, like, it's a weird case with no clear like, this is definitely the person who did it. Like, I think it was the doctor because that's the person who I looked at and I was like, this person makes me suspicious. Just like Single. I wonder why the axe had that notch in the bottom of the blade, like it was chiseled out. Honestly, who knows? Like, people did weird shit back then. It is a pretty good rhyme, you gotta admit, even though it doesn't do her justice, definitely. Like, I thought it was cool when I was a kid. Because I was a weird kid.
Literally here from her.
There it is. No, come back. You could hear her from outside, that's right. You're very loud.
That's just hair. I'll fix it.
Almost looked like someone tried to cut it down to make it lighter. I mean, possibly. Like, don't know that a woman didn't do it. We just know that odds are good that it wasn't Lizzie. Like, if you look at the evidence objectively. Like, you know, when I told you that this was the subject that we were going to be covering, like, I wasn't sure. I didn't know if she was guilty or not. And it was just doing research with an open mind and looking at the newer stuff that had come out instead of the stuff that came out in the tabloids in the 19th century. Because most of the information that we have now is stuff that was printed in the tabloids at the time. And obviously, they had a bias. They just wanted to do whatever would sell the most papers. But it almost looked like someone tried to cut it down to make it lighter, but stopped when they realized how much effort it took. I mean, not an impossible thing. And, like, this is very much just my opinion after doing a couple days of research, like very thorough and extensive research, because I'm blessed with the ability to read quickly and listen quickly. But like still as thorough as I could find. Like the only thing I could have done more, honestly, was probably like reading the full length books, which the only reason that I didn't try to do that is because I don't have them on hand, and they're like $30 and $100. Smeagol, shut up. Aw. Media always have a bias. Yep. Some things just don't change. And tabloids are one of those things. Tabloids have always been like this. You hush.
I love her. She is a menace.
That's true.
So what's the new book that you wanted to get a hold of?
The Jennings Journals. And then there's the first one, the one that I can only find for over $100, is called Parallel Lives. Don't hurt my eardrums. I tell her that every day. You all thought I was kidding when I complained. Oh, I did not think that you were kidding. Paige, do not worry. I took you at your word. She's a loud one. For sure. So. What time is it? 12.
Almost 1 o'clock.
Almost 1. So, we need to wrap up because other roommate needs to sleep soon. But we will be back for Chatterday on Saturday, and then movie night on Sunday. Which my thought right now is to watch the Kristen Stewart and Chloe Sevigny. I don't know how to pronounce her last name. Sorry. Lizzie Borden movie. It looks horrible and extremely historically inaccurate, which gives me a lot to talk about for movie night. So, a roofing hatchet made to pry nails out. I knew it was like a carpentry one because it had a little notch to hold nails in, and like it was made so that you could use it as a hammer. I didn't know it was specifically roofing. That's interesting. But yeah, so please join the Discord. That is where the announcements go. I'm working hard at posting in there more. And I feel like I'm doing a fairly good job of it. And that's where the movie night on Sunday will be. We will use one of the voice channels and we'll all watch together. The one that we did for the West Memphis 3 movie was super fun. So I'm sure that will happen again. And this one, I don't know. It looks like a movie where they're gonna go really hard on the angle of they lesbianing together with Bridget and Lizzie. So that'll be interesting to see how they make that work.
Thank you, Paige. On behalf of Danny.
What?
Said you're doing awesome.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And JR has shoes.
Atomic Elbow asked, lesbianing?
Yeah, that's from Orange is the New Black. One of the characters is like, they lesbianing together, and I just find it very funny. And so I think lesbianing is a very fun verb. But yeah, like lots of people love the theory that Lizzie and Bridget were having an affair. Exceedingly unlikely, but it'll be fun to see how the movie tries to make it work. So if you're interested in that, make sure you join the Discord. Follow the memes page, etc., etc. And yeah, come back on Saturday for Chatterday. And if you are not familiar, Chatterday is the weekend show that is like way more casual, where we're just kind of hanging out and like sometimes talking about stuff from the topic that week, sometimes not. You know, just whatever comes up. So hopefully I'll see you then. And thank you, Drew and Georgia. You are wonderful. Lesbianing, yeah, it's a verb now. Both movies do the lesbianing angle. Yeah, I know that the Christina Ricci one goes with the incest angle, and I know that the Christina Ricci one goes with the she committed the murders naked one. I did not finish the Christina Ricci ones because once they got to the incest, I was like, oh, okay, so we don't care about history. And kind of just like lost interest. Because I'm a nerd who cares about historical accuracy in my movies. Which hopefully will make things more entertaining for you all.
And yes, ADHD gets to run completely rampant on Saturday, as Paige pointed out.
Yes, Chatterday is like ADHD run wild, for sure. Even more so than the regular days. It's the day that we extra earn that tag. JR's hair keeps trying to smooth itself out. And I'm like, not today, hair. It's changed textures multiple times tonight. Okay, but really, we're ending so that other roommate can get some sleep before work tomorrow. And I will hopefully see you all on Saturday and or Sunday. Thank you so much for joining. I hope it was interesting. I hope that you learned a lot of stuff that you had never heard before. That was my goal here. That's always my goal, like even when covering, you know, topics that are done constantly, like Jack the Ripper. Trying to bring a different angle to it and present information that you have probably not heard before. That's always my goal. So thank you, and let's figure out who to raid. Anyone have any preferences, thoughts of who they'd like to raid? You have a wonderful evening, Drew, Georgia. Thank you for being here, MK Ultra. Thank you, Chip and Rhetoriku. I'm sure that as soon as the stream ends, I will remember something that I really wanted to talk about. And then that'll just be something to talk about on Saturday.
Oh, someone redeemed Give Smeagol love. MK Ultra did.
Oh, the love! Oh, yes, so much love! So much love for the Schmeegs! Okay, thank you, Armac. And everyone go follow Armac. Armac has just started streaming and is absolutely phenomenal. Does some amazing poetry that made me cry and laugh and, emote.
Ricky recommended Riverboat Jack.
That works. All right. Yeah. Well, let's do that. So we are gonna raid Riverboat Jack. And thank you again for joining. See you on Discord and Chatterday. Soul has a block so that raids can't happen. So the way that we can go around that is to just all suddenly start watching his stream. But I don't want to make him uncomfortable if he really is not in the mood for a raid. So, but yeah, I have tried to raid Soul before.
Alright, rating now. Y'all have a good evening.
Thank you, everyone.